Hi everyone, I'm here today to recommend loads of books to you. I would say that Lola is going to help as well. She's visiting today, but actually I think primarily what she'll do is sit here and look cute, which is really all we can ask for anyway. I have seen several videos knocking around YouTube which are different versions of 12 outfits in 12 minutes. I think it was started by Alexa Chung, and she asked people to send her requests for slightly ridiculously specific scenarios. So for instance, you need to go to a picnic, it might rain, you want to wear things that won't stain, and you need to cycle there. And then she would have 1 minute to raid her wardrobe and come up with an outfit, put it on and talk about it. So I would like to do that, but with books instead. I'm not going to do 12 books in 12 minutes because I'm hoping I can do more than that, given I don't have to wear the books, I don't have to put them on, I don't have to get changed. But I took to Instagram and I asked people to please send me very specific book recommendation requests. I'm going to set myself a timer for 15 minutes and I'm going to see how many books I can recommend in that time. And what I would like to do, fingers crossed, is do this in real time. So I haven't read the requests yet. I'm going to get them up on my phone. I'm going to put a timer for 15 minutes at the bottom of the screen somewhere around here. And then I'm going to read them out and answer them. I'm not going to run to my shelves and pick them up. I'll just insert covers. I may look around me at my shelves as I answer them to try and get inspiration. So it's not just a challenge to see how many books I can recommend in 15 minutes, but it's also a challenge to see if I don't fall over my words too much, because normally, obviously, I would cut out any stumbles. So that's it. As I said, I haven't read them in advance. You've sent me hundreds, so I'm just picking some at random, and then I'm gonna recommend books to you. That's it, that's the video. Great, cool, okay, 15 minutes on the clock. I was gonna just say start the timer without actually starting the timer. Let's actually start a timer. 15 minutes on the clock, starting now. Okay, right. Find the recommendation requests. Okay, number 1. I need a book set in a haunted house similar to the house in Shirley Jackson's novel. She's written quite a few haunted houses. I would recommend The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters, which is set just after the, is it the Second World War? I think it's set just after the Second World War, or it's between the wars, I can't remember, but it's about a doctor who's called to this house where odd things keep happening. His mum used to work there and he gets drawn into this family life and it appears to be haunted. It's just very, very creepy. Okay, another one. Number 2, I would like a magical realism book to help me get to sleep when dealing with insomnia. I would recommend The Arrival by Shaun Tan, which is a silent graphic novel. It has magical realism in it. It's about a man who flees his country due to war to settle in another country, and all of the customs there feel extremely different to him, and Shaun Tan expresses that displacement through magical realism, and it is so beautiful. And I would suggest it specifically for this because it has no words, which means it feels quite dreamlike and you can make up the stories in your own head as you go. Next, I am tired of talking to my family about politics because of our conflicting stances. Recommend a book that deals with this issue or something that can reassure my faith in family. I would recommend a few different books. Okay, I would recommend There But For There by Ali Smith, which is about people who gather at a dinner party and they all have conflicting political views, and it's all about that and the privilege of engaging / not engaging and educating yourself. It's also about a man who locks himself in a room and refuses to leave, but that's off the back of this dinner party. And I would also recommend 2 books by Bernardine Evaristo. Lara, which is her debut novel in verse, which feels very much like an early version, though still different, of her most recent book, which is Girl, Woman, Other. And both of those books look at family and generations of family and how their political views differ and how they reconcile that. I mean, it's also about so many other things apart from that. But given that that's the specific thing that you're looking for, I would recommend particularly Girl, Woman, Other, which is just absolutely brilliant. Next one, I need a book with talking animals to cheer me up. I would recommend The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making, which has a talking dragon in it, and I'm sure it has other talking animals in it as well, but it will definitely make your heart happy. That is my go-to recommendation. Okay, next. Non-fiction recommendations about camping. The Word for Woman is Wilderness by Abby, I've forgotten her surname, but that is about what it's like to go out into the wilderness on your own as a woman, and she's looking at the history of men who have done that before them. Sarah Maitland's books, which are all about silence and isolation and the power of that. Her book Gossip from the Forest is about her camping in different locations and looking into the folklore surrounding the forest that she's staying in. Also The Crossway by Guy Stagg, who goes on a pilgrimage from Canterbury to Jerusalem and camps along the way. And I mean, reading about the stuff that he did on that journey is just slightly ridiculous. Okay, right, next recommendation. Ridiculous scenario incoming. Okay, you are in a room reading when suddenly chaos breaks out and you get kidnapped by aliens. They threaten to destroy the whole earth unless you can give them a book to show them that humanity is still worth saving. They cannot understand spoken language. Which book do you pick out? Okay, so there is a book kind of specifically about this, called The Humans by Haig, which is about aliens who come to Earth and pretend to be humans in order to find out what humanity is all about. So I suppose you could read out The Humans by Haig to show what other aliens have researched about our species. I mean, I would also like to recommend Michel Faber's books, The Book of Strange New Things, and oh my goodness, what is this other one called that deals with aliens under the skin, but I'm not sure that would save humanity particularly. I would also recommend England Poems from a School, which is edited by Kate Clanchy, which just shows how brilliant children are and the beautiful words that they can come up with. Kate looks after children at Oxford Spires Academy, teaching them poetry, and they're mainly children who are refugees or are children of parents who are refugees. And even during lockdown, she has been putting their work up online. I'll link it down below because it's incredible. So I think that would be a good saviour of humanity. Next. Oh, Matthew Sharappa. He says, there is a ghost in my bedroom and I need a book that I can read bits to him from nightly so that he doesn't bother me while I sleep. Okay, I would recommend How to Make Friends with a Ghost by, I think it's by Rebecca Green. I'll insert some pictures here. It's a picture book on how to make friends with a ghost, the kind of food that they like, the things that they like to read, the games that they like to play, so you can learn about each other and bond before bed. That sounds like a great idea to me. Next. I love books with lady scientists doing science at the turn of the century. What would you recommend? Novels, I don't know, but non-fiction, I would recommend A Lab of One's Own by Patricia Fara, which is all about the badass lady scientists at the start of the 20th century who were doing amazing things. Next. A book that will make you fall in love with the natural world, but is not a picture book or a scientific book. This one here. I'm wasting time by getting it out. This is Wonderland by Jini Reddy, who is walking around the British countryside and trying to find the magic of it and writing about the history of the British countryside and how she relates to it as someone who's often othered by British society because she's not white. I haven't read this one yet, but I've heard great things. I'll be reading it next month, July, and reviewing it for Toast, which I'm very excited about. Next. A book recommendation for a badass disability activist with a focus on sexism in the art world. We are also both in mourning for the death of our shared partner and have a dark sense of humour. Firstly, I'm sorry to hear that you are mourning the death of your partner. I would recommend books by Olivia Laing, such as The Lonely City, which looks at grief and loneliness within the art world. I also have a book which I haven't read yet, so I can't give it my personal stamp of approval, but I have this book here, which is called The Art of the Body by Alex Allison. And it says, Janet is caught between care work and caring for herself. Her life revolves around Shaun, a talented fine art student living and working with cerebral palsy. And it's about the art that they end up creating together. So I don't know if this is good. I haven't read it yet, but you may want to look into that yourself. My sister lives in China and Thailand. I'd like a book that has linked Asia-UK stories so we could feel connected by reading those together. I can't think of a short story collection that does that, but this was handily just behind me. I would recommend this, which is Two Trees Make a Forest by Jessica J. Lee. She is a British Canadian Taiwanese author, I do believe. Yes, a British Canadian Taiwanese writer. And in this, she is exploring her Taiwanese heritage and talking about what it's like to explore nature in Taiwan as someone who I believe didn't grow up there herself. So it says Taiwan is an island of extremes, towering mountains, lush forests, and domesticated flatlands. So she's trying to piece together the fragments of her family's history as they move from China to Taiwan and then on to Canada. And then, as I said, she's also British as well. So that's not stories, but it is a non-fiction book. So you could take it in turns reading chapters and then talk about them. I think that might be quite cool. I have read every Sarah Waters book and would love a lesbian murder mystery. The Confessions of Franny Langdon by Sarah Collins, which is a murder mystery, historical, queer. Yes, I would recommend that. A novel about first love revisited. I would recommend Disobedience by Naomi Alderman, which is about Esty and Ronit, who are two women who were in love with each other as girls, and then they became separated, and they're both from Orthodox Jewish families who frown upon their relationship, and they meet up again, and it's great. I would recommend that. An adult queer romance that has a somewhat happy ending, Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo, which I just read, and it is so good and it will warm your heart so much. It is about a man called Barrington who has been in love and having an affair with his best friend Morris since they were 14, but he is married to a woman called Carmel, and she has no idea that he has been having an affair for 60 years. He's in his 70s and he's deciding whether or not he wants to leave her in order to spend the rest of his life with the man that he truly loves. And all of the relationships in that book are amazing. The characters, you just will not forget them. You will fall in love with them. It's just brilliant. A book about witchcraft set in Scotland. I would recommend The Bass Rock by Evie Wilde, which is set in Scotland. It's about a small island called the Bass Rock, which is just off the main coast, and it's set across 3 different timelines. The first one is in the 1700s. It's about a woman called Sara who's been accused of witchcraft, and the next one is in the 1950s, and then one in the present day, and it's about different versions of witchcraft, the things that women are villainized for that aren't necessarily magic. So in the 1700s, it's in the name of witchcraft, but it's just because these men don't like this woman and her sexuality. In the 1950s, it's looking at stepmothers and the relationship between a woman and the 2 children that she is now being the stepmother of, and how they vilify her for that. And then in the present day is again looking at sexuality and queerness and how that can be vilified in women as well, like witchcraft. So yes, I recommend that one. Someone says, I'm looking for a book for my dad. He's a bird watcher and has been for over 50 years. Because of this, I would love a recommendation that would suit his level of experience. I got this, why are these all behind me? I got this proof copy, which is out in September. I haven't read it yet, but it's called Between Light and Storm, How We Live with Other Species by Esther Wolfson. And she is a bird watcher, if I remember correctly. Yeah, for decades, Esther Wolfson has lived with birds, observing them closely and getting to know their always individual ways. In this groundbreaking new book, she moves from this intimate acquaintance with another species to reflect more broadly on the complex relationship between humans and animals. She's also written a memoir before this. I don't know if that's referenced in here. Yeah, Corvus, A Life with Birds, which is a memoir, and she's also talking about her personal relationship with birds in that book too. So that might be one that you would like to check out, or 2 that you would like to check out. My boyfriend doesn't read. He's a real nerd and enjoys video games. I always recommend Ready Player One. I know that's quite boring to recommend, but it seems to have a very high success rate, so that's where I'm going. I run a monthly book club and would love to read some poetry. Most members don't feel up to it because they assume it is difficult or inaccessible. What would you recommend so that I can change their mind? I would recommend The Perseverance by Raymond Antrobus, which is about deafness and identity. It's about race and family. I always describe it as a really kind book because I think it's filled with so much compassion. I would recommend The Republic of Motherhood by Liz Berry, which is so raw and looking at, I hate that word raw, but it's so unflinching, this pamphlet that looks at motherhood. I think so many people could relate. And I'll finish what I was going to say. I would also recommend Answering Back by Carol Ann Duffy, which is a response poetry book. So it's an anthology where poets have written response poems to poems. I'm saying poems a lot. She got poets to write response poems to famous poems. Yes, so it's great for discussion because instead of just talking about one poem as a group, you're talking about that poem, but also how another poet has interpreted it. And it's almost like you are part of the conversation between those 2 poems. I think it's really great for a book club. So that is one that I would recommend. So there we go. My phone is still going off and you're still sending in requests. As I said, there were hundreds, so I can do this again in the future if you would like me to. I've just counted and I answered 19 book requests in 15 minutes. I probably could have done more if I hadn't spoken about what the books were about as well, but I feel like it's a little bit redundant to just say the titles of the books and nothing else. That was really fun. If other booktubers are watching this and you would like to try on your channel, I would love to see that. Also, if you're watching this and you have a request, leave them in the comments down below and maybe I'll make another video like this another time. Also, something that I should have said at the beginning of this video is that I have a new story in an anthology called an anthology called Outsiders that is coming out in September. It was supposed to come out in May, but because of coronavirus, it got pushed back. It's an anthology which is very queer, very dark. We're discussing lots of different topics. There's stories in it from me, Kirsty Logan, Anna Wood, Erenison Okaji has written the preface, Julia Armfield, Stephanie Victoire, Leonie Ross, lots of people. It's going to be great. If you pre-order today, the day that this video goes up, the 30th of June, you will actually get your copy in July. But if you pre-order it after that, you will get it end of August, September. I would love for you to check it out. I will leave a link in the description box down below. I'll also list all of the books that I mentioned in this video as well. I'm gonna go so that I can edit this video and put it up this evening. Lola says hello as well. At least I like to think that she does. She did a very good job of sitting there and looking cute. I will be back with another video very shortly. I hope you guys are doing okay, sending lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.